This is Paul Walker's final film. Let's see how he did. Hello once again, watchers of good movies. My name is Nick Pell, and this is once again coming from my white room. Now today I'm going to be talking about the film Furious 7. This is the 7th Fast and Furious film in the franchise, and let's see how it did. The film stars Vin Diesel as Dominic Toretto. He is the main character of this franchise at this point, and he continues to do the role very, very well. He is always fun to see on screen as this kind of stoic leader who also has a nice sense of humanity to him. Paul Walker is Brian O'Connor in his final role as an actor before his untimely death, and he continues to do the role very, very well as kind of the second-hand man of Vin Diesel's character, and he's just always fun to watch on screen. He does a fantastic job in his final performance. And then lastly we have Jason Statham as Shaw. This is the brother of Luke Evans Shaw from Fast and Furious 6, and so he's out for revenge on the crew for beating his brother, I guess. Now what's kind of cool about this film is that it finally brings the events from the end of Tokyo Drift and those from Fast and Furious 4 up to now finally to a close, because we finally go in full circle. We see Dominic Toretto go to Tokyo, deal with Han's death, and we get to interact with the main character from Tokyo Drift. Now this was cool for me because Tokyo Drift is one of my favorite films in the franchise, but I really would have liked to see at least this main character used a lot more in the film, even just getting revenge for the guy who took down Han. I would have liked to see his character used a lot more, because that's where I figured it was going to be going, and using a lot of his characters from Tokyo Drift in this next film. The character is in the movie for maybe 5 minutes, and then they don't even deal with him anymore. And so that's just a little bit disappointing for me. As is usual with these films now, they verge on unrealistic to a massive degree, and this film is no different. There's a large amount of unrealistic things that happen, but like it is with me and Transformers, once you accept that, you know what you're going into, it is a very fun time to be had with this film, because once you understand, yes, this is unrealistic, the movie is very self-aware of what is happening and what it is. This is a very well-made film, and that's something that once you accept it, you can see very clearly. There's a little bit of use of shaky cam, actually there's a lot of use of shaky cam in action scenes and car chases and that stuff, which kind of took me out of the film just every so often, so that was a thing which I didn't really appreciate that much. The action scenes themselves though are choreographed very, very well in terms of Paul Walker's fights and Vin Diesel's fights and other characters. They are all done in fantastic fashion. The issues between Letty and Dom are brought up again in this film just because after the last film, they find her alive and with amnesia, and so her trying to remember her past with Dom becomes kind of something that is touched on repeatedly throughout the film. They also deal with Brian's kind of tug between two worlds, that of a family man and living with his wife and son and soon-to-be daughter, and going on these missions and high-speed chase and gunfights with Dom and the crew. And it's kind of an interesting pull that they use, and it's brought up every so often, but it doesn't become a huge focus of the film and doesn't overwhelm the bigger picture, which is something that I did appreciate. And as is a common occurrence with these last couple films, there is a lot of humor in regards to a couple of characters. There's just witty lines which are had. There are some characters which stand out as very humorous, and it's always nice to see that happen, and it happened very well in an action film. Dwayne Johnson's character isn't really necessary in this film, honestly. He's there a little bit at the beginning and a little bit at the end, and it just kind of seemed forced. It made sense of why it was introduced at the beginning, that's fine, but when he's brought back in the end, it kind of didn't really fit and didn't really seem as necessary for the film. It just kind of seemed like they were filling him into the film to make him worth the money they paid him to be in the movie itself. And then there's simply too much of Jason Statham's Shaw character in the film. He just kind of shows up at times throughout the film with no real reason. It just seems like he just knows where everybody is. He just shows up, tries to take down Dominic Toretto, fails, and then moves on, and he's at some other place. And so it just seemed like a very big cat and mouse story with him. There's not really a lot of depth to his character. It's not really explored at all. and I would have liked to see him be kind of fleshed out a lot better as a character in this film. The story as it is, though, is actually pretty decent. I did have fun with it. It's very enjoyable as a film. Once you kind of excuse all these little issues and you excuse the unrealistic aspect of the film itself, it is very fun to watch. It is a good time. I am going to dive into basically the very end 5 minutes of the film now, because it kind of deals with Paul Walker. So if you don't want to know how they do that, probably stop watching here. I did enjoy the film. I definitely recommend going to see it. So those are my thoughts on that. The ending of the film with Paul Walker is done actually really, really well. I went through the entirety of this film expecting him to get killed at some point and having some emotional tribute, him sacrificing himself to save Dom or something to that degree. And no, he doesn't die in this film, which is something which really surprised me, because I was expecting that throughout the entirety of the movie, because they seem to hint at it throughout the whole thing with him saying goodbyes to people and not being sure if he's going to come back alive. And so it seemed to be hinting at that was coming for the entirety of it, and that doesn't happen. And it has him just on the beach being with his family, and that's where he is meant to be. And I actually really liked that ending a lot more than if he had just been killed off, had like a 2-minute little dialogue with Dom, and then been out of the film entirely. I thought that the tribute at the end, where they showed a bunch of scenes from all the films with him in it, and then Vin Diesel's overview or voiceover of the whole thing, it was just a very emotional, very well done tribute to the man himself. And then seeing the two cars diverge in the distance or just overhead, that also worked really, really well. It was very emotional for me. I'm also a sap, so that's why. But I thought it was really well done. I think that they sent him off in great fashion, and I'm excited to see what the rest of this franchise is going to do without this character, because Vin Diesel and Paul Walker have been this duo which have really held this series together, it seems like. And so I'll be curious to see what they do now, if they'll bring in maybe the guy from Tokyo Drift or something as the new Paul Walker per se. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with it. But those are my thoughts. Leave yours in the comments down below. What did you think of Furious 7? Did you like the Paul Walker tribute? Did you like the movie as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Once again, if you so choose, I'd appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell. And once again, keep on watching.